Hey y'all, it's Zack, the legal tech advisor here at Lawyerist. Today I'd like to touch on public relations for your law firm. Recently, I sat down with Tamara from Postali to talk about the three fundamentals of lawyer PR. Have a listen. Let us know what you think.
Hi, I'm Tamara, and I am the PR manager at Postali. I am in charge of helping our legal partners improve their visibility online using any type of earned media opportunities, like being in an article on Wall Street Journal, being in a podcast, sponsorships, etc.
Tamara, thanks for joining us today. I think this is a topic that a lot of lawyers don't really know that they're already dealing with, or don't know that they've already started doing part of this, but they're not necessarily doing it in a holistic or intentional way. So I appreciate you coming and kind of talking to us about it. Previously, you and I had discussed what are the things that we need to know as lawyers to do this. And so you had said the first steps were laying a good foundation. Can you
Yes,
expand upon a good foundation for PR efforts in our law firms?
definitely. So there are three top things. They are one, making sure your website's up to date and reflecting how you want your firm to be presented to the world.
Hmm.
Two, you want to make sure your branding and your messaging is on point. And three, making sure you have an updated and active social media. So that's it in a nutshell.
It seems simple enough, but I think that a lot of us as lawyers don't even have any of those really consistently going. And those three things seem to be connected to each other pretty well. Having a good website also necessitates having good branding, because part of at least with Lawyerist, for our best law firm websites, we look at the branding, at the voice. And so what are the things that people need to know or need to think about when they're setting that first issue of having a good website?
For sure. So with your website, you want to make sure it reflects exactly what you want your firm to be seen as.
Hmm.
So does it say your title? Does it say what practice areas that you actually help with and represent? Does it have an about section? Is there a way to contact you? Can we see a photo of you? And a lot of lawyers prefer not to be the face of their brand, but
Hmm.
guess what? Especially when you're in a solo to mid-sized space as a law firm, people want to know who you are.
Right.
So do we have professional photos of you? Can those be used, as a headshot? Like what is on the website that's presenting or being a selling platform for you to sell you? When a journalist comes to your website, they are also looking for credibility. And credibility,
Hmm.
as much as we may not want to think about it, does include appearance. And that's what your website does for you.
Well, I want to expand upon that a little bit. When you say when a journalist comes to your website, I want to tease out the difference between, PR and marketing.
Yes.
Marketing is, you advertising out to the world. But what we're talking about is having a good website for when you send out PR campaigns to try to connect with somebody, a journalist or something like that, to kind of promote you as well, or promote something that you're saying, right?
Yes, correct. So, of course, when we're talking about marketing, we obviously expect a consumer to come to our website.
Right.
If we are, marketing to other businesses, we expect them to come to our website. We always think about, again, in any business, but especially for law firms, we tend to think about the person who's going to convert into a case as
Hmm.
our audience. When you actually add PR to your digital marketing mix, you have to also then think of a journalist being part of your ideal audience now.
Hmm.
When they come here, do they get a sense of who you are? Do they feel like you're a thought leader? I know we use that term a lot, but do they feel like you're an authority on a specific topic?
Hmm.
And usually they can tell by how you talk about something, like what you have on
Right.
your blog. A lot of people sometimes like next the blog, but that also can actually bring you some good press or get you linked in an article, actually, because you have something that's very thoughtful and informative.
Right.
Do you have a title underneath your name? Like, for example, saying that you're a trial attorney doesn't really give me too much insight into what topic you talk about, but saying that you're a family law attorney or saying that you're an estate planning attorney can tell me that this is what you talk about, this is what you're an advocate for.
Hmm.
Um, so there's things like that. Just think beyond just your title and think, how can I show that I'm an authority on a subject with my website?
So that leads into branding on your site for yourself, all of that, how you look to the outside world. And again, we're not just thinking about branding for our potential clients, but
Correct.
for other thought leaders, journalists, things like that. So what are
Yeah.
kind of some ideas that we need to keep in our heads behind good branding?
Biggest thing is, what are your goals? So sometimes when you start with your website or your branding, you may not think about a journalist being part of your audience. When you
Mm-hmm.
do make that switch, though, you then have to reconsider and enhance your website with that option.
Right.
One of the ways you can do that is by creating a press page on your website,
Okay.
which, yeah, so a lot of lawyers tend to miss out on that. But it's definitely important to add a press page because it gives a journalist, instead of them getting caught in the weeds of what might be more focused for an individual consumer that's calling you
Mm-hmm.
for a case, you can have a press page dedicated to showing a journalist what you talk about, what you may have been featured in the past, whether that's a trade website, trade journal, trade magazine, an award that you've got. You can then put all of those in one place and make it easy for them to also contact you if they want to
Mm-hmm.
learn anything. But you also want to think about messaging. I always say, what do you want to be known for? I probably said it multiple times today, but what
Right.
do you want to be known for? That is key. For example, if you're a personal injury attorney, it's very probable that you do a lot of things. You have a lot of practice areas. You
Mm-hmm.
probably do dog bites and medical malpractice and premises liability and car accidents and all of these things. But what do you want to be known for? Maybe you want to be known for being a road safety advocate
Mm-hmm.
or a driving safety advocate. So you have to make sure your messaging now aligns with not just your title, but what you want to be known for.
And that's a little bit more specific than what area of law you practice. And
Correct.
so that is what we're talking about with branding, not necessarily the color of your website, the
No.
hex codes, but that and the logo and things like that are obviously part of good branding. But we're talking about good branding from the perspective of presenting yourself for PR. That
Mm-hmm.
press page is interesting to me.
Yes.
It's I had always thought of that as, hey, clients, here's the press about me.
Mm-mm.
And it seems like it's actually, hi press, here is where you can get where I've worked and played well with others previously,
Correct.
you know?
Correct.
And
Yes.
so it doesn't, I kind of want to emphasize that it doesn't come off as, it doesn't come off poorly to have a press
No.
page,
No, not at all.
because I think a lot of lawyers keep that in mind. They're thinking, well, if I have a press page, then people are going to think that I think a lot of myself. And A, you should think a lot of yourself.
Correct. I was gonna say yes.
B, it has a purpose to it. So
Yes.
beyond that, when somebody from press, journalist, somebody like that who's looking to connect with you comes in, they want to see that you are active on social media as well.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they care about that?
This is definitely another aspect of credibility.
Mm-hmm.
So in the PR space, they want to talk to the source. As PR professionals, we're really facilitators. We're putting you in front of someone, we're positioning you, we're helping you with your messaging.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the journalist, the writer, they want to talk to you. So when they look at your social media, they're using it as a way to get a sense of who you are, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's your own personal page or even the business page. They're trying to get a sense of who you are outside of the website. Like,
Okay.
what's your tone? What's your voice? What's your personality? Are you human? Like, social media is all about humanizing your brand.
Right.
So they're trying to understand that because, again, you can be an expert and maybe not be a great collaborator with a journalist too. There is
Right.
that aspect of it. And usually as PR pros, we definitely do media training and make sure that we prepare you for those kind of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But they are looking at who you are as a person. A lot of them actually use LinkedIn, which is very much loved by
Right.
lawyers, to again verify that you're a real person. That's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then just again to get a sense of who you are. And most people use LinkedIn as a list of their achievements, so it can be a good stopgap if you don't have a
You
press
don't
page
have that
yet.
press page. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously I think this goes without saying, but we're going to say it. You need to keep that social media profile up to date instead
Yes,
of
please.
having an Instagram page of your travels to, Mount Rushmore from 2019, which I'm sure was wonderful for pictures. But you need to have something a little bit more recent on there.
Agreed.
Well, Tamara, thank you for talking to me about this. I think this is a pretty good primer for people that are just getting into or just starting to think about shifting some of their focus to public relations for their law firm. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.